All right. So our next presentation is coming from Sam Topper. Sam Topper is the fire supervisor for the Delaware Forest Service. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it in person today, but he recorded a presentation he gave recently at Delaware Ag Week, and we've got that presentation here for you today. So unfortunately, he won't be here
I'm Sam. I'm the
in
fire soup
person.
for the state of
Uh,
Delaware, and I've been in the job about
and
3 months
it's
now. But
edited
as you
as
know,
well. So if you're
with
noticing the
COVID,
quick cuts, that's that. But
been involved in
he's
a
going to
couple
talk
things.
about fire in the state of
The
Delaware
time I've been
and
here
give
with
you
the
guys an
Forest
overview
Service.
similar to what Chris did for the Delaware folks in the room. So stay tuned here.
Well, welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm Sam. I'm the fire soup for the state of Delaware, and I've been in the job about 3 months now. But I didn't come in totally in the dark. I've been involved in that program for basically the entire time I've been here with the Forest Service, which has been 19 years now. Here to talk a little bit about the fire program. Perhaps many of you do know that the Delaware Forest Service has a fire program, but I do know that in my talks out and about, there's a bunch of folks who don't. And even fewer of those know that not only do we have a program, but that program serves landowners and provides and offers services for landowners as well. So I'm here today to talk a little bit, just summarize the program, talk about what we do, and then highlight some of the things that we do for actual landowners. The program's been around the entire time the Forest Service has been around, which 1927. Fun fact that some folks may not know is the formation and the creation of the Forest Service officially was partially in response to wildfires. So the program's deep-rooted into the agency itself, although, in 1998-ish is when the program really grew, influx of federal money, and the creation of the out-of-state wildfire program. So we've been doing a lot in-state for a long time. We've been doing some stuff out of state for the last going on 3 decades now. I just want to highlight some of that stuff today. You could kind of separate the fire program into 2 big buckets, the suppression side and then the prescribed fire side. I'll start with the suppression side. So that's, just what it says, putting fires out, right? So what that looks like in the state of Delaware largely is supporting volunteer fire companies. They are the primary responder for fires in the state, including wildfires. So much of the work that we do centers around supporting them. We do that in a number of ways: manpower support, management support for complex incidents, specialized equipment. We have some specialized equipment that they utilize from time to time. One of the other valuable services we can provide to them is extended attack and mop-up. I mentioned in the beginning, those guys are volunteers. So every fire they go to, they're not with their families, they're not at their job making money, whereas when we go, we are. So we have the ability to relieve them when it's time for them to go back to their stations and rehab. And, if somebody needs to stay there for an extended period of time, we can help support that way. We also do a grant program for equipment to help volunteer fire companies with purchasing wildland fire equipment. And we provide training, specialized wildland training. Some of that occurs either in the field or in the classroom. So we can do that customized. We've worked with a couple in the past, and I'm working with a couple right now to develop customized training programs. So, hey, I've got these guys who feel pretty good here, but a little weak here. Can you do something that just addresses that? Sure, absolutely. One of the other things that we do to support them is through a federal excess property program, which we're going to start this year. It's an existing federal program, but hasn't really been very active in Delaware, largely due to not having a dedicated fire soup to address that stuff. So that's one of the things that's kind of upcoming that we hope to get to support them guys. So that's kind of what our volunteer fire company support looks like at a high level. Practically, we do the equipment grant every year, so we serve a handful of stations that way. The actual support on incidents is usually in the neighborhood of a couple dozen a year, sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on how busy they are. So that's what it kind of looks like at a practical level. We also do out-of-state suppression. I mentioned that in the beginning. So what that looks like is an engine, so just what we would call around here a brush truck. We have one of those that we use available to all 50 states if needed. It's probably been to a couple dozen. We also have what we call a hand crew, which is just 20 firefighters with hand tools, so chainsaws, the traditional firefighting crew that you might think of or see on the news. We provide one of them. We also provide what we just call single resource. So that's advanced qualification folks like computer guys or logistics guys, that sort of thing. We've been doing that since, like I said, 1998. We continue to do that every year. This past summer, 2023, we did not field the hand crew. It was kind of a slow year, both in terms of recruiting and in terms of fire load or fire severity. So we didn't field the crew, but we did send the engine out of state. It went to Yosemite National Park in California, spent a little over 2 months there. So we continue to do out-of-state suppression. You may ask, what's the benefit to Delaware from sending our firefighters to California? Believe it or not, there's a lot. I'll just touch on a couple here. One, the state makes money. Not only do they get reimbursed for my time, they save salary while I'm gone. The equipment gets paid. Me and my crews or anybody who goes out gets valuable training that they can then bring back to the state of Delaware. There are benefits to that out-of-state program to the state of Delaware. That's kind of the quick and dirty about suppression. So the other thing I said was prescribed fire. It's just fire on the landscape that's set intentionally, but under exacting conditions that are derived from a very specific and tangible and desired end state, right? So we clearly outline our goals. We work backwards from there to determine the fire intensity and timing that would achieve those goals, and then work backwards from there to what the fire has to look like and what the environmental conditions have to look like under ignition to achieve those desired fire behavior, to achieve the desired fire effects. That's the simple version. Weather's hard to predict. We all know that. So in real life, it gets a little trickier than that. But in a nutshell, that's prescribed fire. So, what do we do? Why do we do it? We could just let Mother Nature take its course, and when the landscape burns, and when it doesn't, it doesn't, right? We could do that, and in some places we do, but that fire interval is unpredictable and over time averages, but over a time scale that normally isn't conducive to human activity. The other thing is the urban interface. We're building houses in those places now, which means the fires have to be controlled all the time, not letting wildfires do the work. So that's why we set them for things like controlling habitat, controlling invasive species, or to reduce the chance of wildfire. Why we don't do it? We don't do it for just broadcast land clearing. That was a practice in much of the country for a long time and still is in many other countries, but not as common a practice here in the United States as it used to be. The populations are just higher now. There's a lot of people around, and we have to balance not only our use of fire and its ease of use or complexity, but we also have to weigh that against everybody else and their well-being and their enjoyment as well. So smoke management and smoke concerns are something that we will spend a lot of time considering and managing on prescribed fire incidents where we didn't used to in the past. So that excludes a lot of the broadcast land clearing burning that we used to do. But we still do a lot of prescribed fire, in the state here, 600-ish acres a year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot considering the number of folks that are out there doing it. We'd like to see a lot more. And there's a lot more habitat that could use improvement. There's a lot more hazardous fuels out there that could use mitigated. So we'd like to see a lot more of it. Challenges to that are staffing. We're not the only agency out there doing prescribed fire, and they're all struggling to meet their quotas and their targets. There's also conflicting land use. Cities don't like to be smoked out. The beaches don't like smoke. Lots of other folks that live in our state, our neighbors, don't like the smoke. So, we have to manage that too. So there's a lot of challenges to increasing prescribed fire on the landscape, but we do feel like giving the list of alternatives, it is still one of the better ways to manage our land for early successional habitat. One of the ways that we're working on increasing prescribed fire and its use on the landscape is through the newly formed Prescribed Fire Council. We don't have a website yet, but we will soon, and we encourage all landowners who are interested in managing their habitat or landscape with fire, or just would like to support that as a land management tool, to look us up when we go public. That council's job is just going to be to advocate for prescribed fire implementation and its safe use. So that was kind of real quick about prescribed fire and a real quick about suppression. I mentioned in the beginning that we offer some services to landowners. So, we talked about what we do for the VFCs. We talked about what we do for other states. What do we do for Delaware landowners? Well, RX fire is the big one. So that prescribed fire, we don't just do that for ourselves on state forest land, but we do it for other state agencies. And we also do it for private landowners. What that looks like is just part of the normal land management of your property. So it's generally already part of your forest stewardship plan that was written for you by your forester. So if you're interested in incorporating fire into your property's management, the best place to start is your service forester, your county forester. They'll help you assess your property, make that plan, and then if needed, they'll incorporate fire into that plan. We do offer that service to private landowners as well, most often free of charge, like virtually everything we do. So that's out there. That's a big one. If you're interested in learning more about that, talk to your county forester. Most of the prescribed fire that we do for private landowners is one of two things. It's either early successional habitat or it's controlling invasive species. Both of those things are ongoing projects. Neither of those are final end state projects. So I just wanted to reiterate, in case you weren't thinking about it, that prescribed fire, when used for those purposes, is an ongoing thing that requires either returning to continue to burn later or some type of follow-up treatment by you, the landowner. So not a magic wand, just one more tool for ongoing maintenance. We also do, along those same lines, hazard mitigation grants. So those are grants that we give largely to HOAs. So if you live in an HOA and you have a concern about the landscape surrounding your community, from a fire danger standpoint, you can contact us and we can make assessments for that. And if necessary, we can help develop plans for mitigating that fire risk and also offer grants for helping to conduct that work. Around here, what it looks like mostly is Phragmites control, the giant grass in our bay communities. So they get financial assistance to spray and mow and sometimes burn that stuff to prevent catastrophic wildfires where those fuels encroach upon the communities. Ties kind of into the next thing we do is general wildfire risk assessments and planning. So again, even if your community is not in a way, let's say you're a town or just a neighborhood who has a legitimate wildfire concern, we can do assessments. Those plans fall under the acronym CWPP, Community Wildfire Protection Plans. They're kind of like forest stewardship plans, but at the community level instead of the property level, and for fire instead of for other types of management. So we offer those services as well. We also have employment opportunities. I mentioned the crew and the engine. We're always recruiting for those things. You do not have to be a firefighter to participate. We offer all the training, no previous necessary, experience necessary, and all you need is 18 years old, good physical condition, and willing to travel. So if you're interested in that kind of an experience, it's call when needed work. It's not full-time or part-time. So for some people that works great with their schedules. You don't have to quit your job to have that experience. You can just go on vacation or take a little leave. So we have that opportunity as well. Most of the stuff that I talked about will go through your county forester, your service forester, the same folk who are out there helping you with your forest stewardship plans. But if you have more specific questions, like about the grants or about the fire program, you're perfectly welcome to give me a call.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sam.